Zondervan Counterpoints. This podcast is a review of a resource available in accordance. It requires no knowledge of accordance Bible software, or Hebrew, or Greek. When was the last time you had a really good discussion about something in the Bible? Some of us take those sorts of discussions for granted, while others find themselves isolated, located among people who just aren't interested in those kinds of conversations. That's too bad, for Proverbs 27:17 says, "Iron sharpens iron." That's true of spiritual things, too. Fortunately, Zondervan's Counterpoints Series is now available in accordance. It's like having a group of wise scholars at your kitchen table, ready to talk about contemporary issues whenever you are. These volumes will raise the level of the discussion, sharpening those who study them, whether for personal use, in a small group, or in a classroom setting. The Counterpoint series has 16 volumes, each centered on a specific topic: apologetics, baptism, church government, church growth, creation, divorce, genocide, hell, law and gospel, Lord's Supper, Millennium, Orthodoxy, Providence, Revelation, women, and worship. Each volume is organized in the same way, opening with an introduction to the selected debate and wrapping it up in the conclusion. Each volume also includes a selected bibliography for further reading and a brief bio of the authors, allowing readers to assess their views in the context of each author's life and experience. However, it's the organization of the body that gives this series its distinctive flavor. The first author will write an article explaining his view, which will be followed in turn by responses of the other authors of the book. Then, author number 2 will write her article, and the others will respond in turn. This arrangement means that the book reads like an extended conversation, rather than a diatribe by a single person. It's proven to be a really excellent way to handle these controversial issues. Here's a brief overview of each of the 16 volumes in this set. Struggling to provide a reasoned defense of your Christian faith? 5 Views on Apologetics offers us 5 different systems for Christian apologetics. Each chapter explains the philosophical basis of each and provides practical examples. This is great for university students and, in fact, anyone involved in evangelism or missions. What is the meaning of water baptism? Is it necessary for salvation? Understanding 4 Views on Baptism guides us in understanding 4 different views of water baptism. The Baptist view, baptism is symbol. The Reformed view, baptism is sacrament. The Lutheran view, baptism is regenerative. And the Christian Church's Churches of Christ view, baptism is salvation. Who runs the church? Here are 4 views on church government, and the volume scrutinizes a very practical issue for every congregation: power and authority in the local church. Is there a biblical pattern for church government? What is it? Here are 4 views: Episcopalianism by Peter Toon, Presbyterianism by Elroy Taylor, Single Elder Congregationalism by Paige Patterson, and Plural Elder Congregationalism by Samuel Lee Waldron. One of the most fascinating trends in the world today is the movement towards so-called super churches, with some local congregations approaching several 100,000. Evaluating the church growth movement carefully considers this trend from 5 different perspectives. 3 Views on Creation and Evolution deals with some really fundamental issues. How did the world come into being? Can one believe in evolution and still be Christian? How does one reconcile the Bible and science? Here are 3 perspectives: young earth creationism, progressive creationism, and the fully gifted creation. Remarriage after divorce in today's church helps us to wrestle with one of the most difficult issues in evangelical churches today: the question of divorce and remarriage. This book covers 3 viewpoints: no remarriage after divorce, represented by Gordon J. Wenham; remarriage after adultery or desertion, represented by William Heth; and remarriage for circumstances beyond adultery or desertion, represented by Craig S. Keener. Did God really command the Israelites to wipe out the Canaanites? How could a loving God do that? Why? And how does it affect our view of war today? Is there still such a thing as holy war? The four authors of Show Them No Mercy wrestle with these sorts of difficult questions and allow us to listen in on their discussion. Four Views on Hell wrestles with the issue of eternal damnation. How can a loving God consign people, even hardened sinners, to such an awful punishment? Here are four views on the nature of hell. The literal view by John F. Walford, the metaphorical view by William V. Crockett, the purgatorial view by Zachary J. Hayes, and the conditional view by Clark H. Pinnock. Are the Ten Commandments still in effect? Should Christians then live under the whole of the Mosaic Law? And if so, should it also be the civil law of the land, a sort of Judeo-Christian version of Islamic law? 5 Views on Law and Gospel offers us 5 different perspectives on this timely question. The practice of Christian communion, which once bound the church together, now often divides Christians from each other. Understanding 4 Views on the Lord's Supper compares and contrasts the 4 main denominational positions. The Baptist view, that Christ's presence is memorial, by Russell D. Moore. The Reformed view, the real presence of Christ, by I. John Hesselink. The Lutheran view, finding the right word, by David P. Scayer. And the Roman Catholic view, Christ's real, true, and substantial presence, by Thomas L. Bema. When will the world end? And how? Will Jesus return to wage war, or will he come in peace to a world already conquered by Christendom? Can we then expect 1,000 years of peace, or is that a metaphor for something else? Here are 3 views of the Millennium, the time when the lion will lay down by the lamb. Postmillennialism, by Kenneth L. Gentry. Amillennialism, by Robert B. Strimple. And premillennialism, by Craig A. Blazing. Are Eastern Orthodoxy and Evangelicalism compatible? Some say yes, others no. Still others, well, maybe. 3 Views on Eastern Orthodoxy and Evangelicalism engages us in that debate as 5 different writers offer their opinions. Should we thank God for rain? And if so, is he also responsible for every tornado, tsunami, and hurricane? If he's not, how can we say that he's all-powerful? And if he is, why doesn't God simply end all the suffering and evil in the world? Here are 4 views of God's providence by 4 leading evangelical authorities. How are we to interpret the book of Revelation? As prophecy? As history? As some combination of the two? 4 Views of the book of Revelation presents the major scholarly positions and the arguments for and against each of them. Can women teach in the local church? Can they serve as pastors? How about as senior pastors? 2 Views of Women in Ministry addresses these questions from 2 different perspectives, egalitarianism and complementarianism. Exploring the Worship Spectrum seeks to address the worship wars that continue to trouble many churches. What style of music does God prefer? How about instrumentation? Is it permitted in the church? Or does he really care? Is rap as equally acceptable in worship as Gregorian chant? Here are 6 views representing the full spectrum of worship in today's Christian churches. The formal liturgical worship, represented by Paul F. M. Zoll. Traditional hymn-based worship, represented by Harold M. Best. Contemporary music-driven worship, represented by Joe Hornis. Charismatic worship, represented by Don Williams. Blended worship, represented by Robert Weber. And emerging worship, represented by Sally Morgenthaler. There they are, 16 volumes addressing the most controversial issues in the church today. If these don't sharpen your thinking, nothing will. In fact, I think it's fair to say these books offer us the quickest way to come up to speed on these important issues. With a son in the Navy and a daughter in college, I can tell you I'll be doing some reading in these myself. We're offering a special price on this series through October 2011. Check it out on our webpage. This has been Dr. J for Accordance Bible Software. Thank you for watching this episode of Lighting the Lamp.